Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Sabrina Paganoni, and I'm here with Dr. Merit Cudkowicz and our patient navigator, Catherine Small. Today, it's May 12th, and we're here for the weekly HEALEY ALS Platform Trial webinar updates. And I'm giving everyone a few seconds to join from the waiting room. I see the numbers going up, so thank you so much for joining. As always, it's great to see many of you join these webinars live, and then we're happy that many people are also watching the recordings. So really hope that this continues to be a great forum for participation and interaction with all of you. So if we can go to the next slide. As you know, with the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial, we have a large infrastructure that's able to test multiple drugs for ALS. And here we have a picture that represents the current layout in 2022, where we are right now. So far, we have opened 5 regimens. Next slide. Now, the good news is that we are in the process of already completing the study of the first few regimens. As you know, regimen A was stopped prematurely, but the other regimens are still very much ongoing. And we expect to see the results of the first group of regimens up to regimen D in 2022. So we're very excited. There is a lot of work that's going on in the background. And despite the pandemic and some staff changes and shortages due to the pandemic, and as well as kind of the day-to-day operations, we are really making significant progress. And so we expect to be able to lock the database this summer and give you the results right after that. Again, the results come in sort of groups because it's a very rich database where we first we know the top line results, which means we will first know the main results related to the safety and efficacy of the drug, and then all the details, all those important biomarkers and additional information that's important to get a full picture of the effect of each drug. It will come later, but again, we're still projecting everything in 2022. Next slide. And so at the same time, we are also continuing to enroll in regimen E. That's the 5th regimen. That's the one that's up and running right now in terms of enrolling new participants. And so for the other ones, we're basically closing out to learn the results. But for regimen E, we are enrolling more people, new people. So thank you to all of you who are considering participation in regimen E or supporting others who would like to participate in regimen E. This is to test a new drug manufactured by Silos Therapeutics, and the drug is called Trialose, and we'll tell you more about that. But so far, we have had 55 people who have started the process to be considered for regimen E, and we have 34 who have been randomized within regimen E, which means being randomized to study drug. Next slide. And right now, we're enrolling at 33 sites. So for those of you who follow us every week, you know that every week we open a few more sites. And so over the last week, we opened the site at the University of Cincinnati and Thomas Jefferson University. So welcome to both. And as you can see on the map, we really have significant geographic reach in many areas. And the blue sites are the sites that have been with us from the very beginning of the trial, since we started with regimen A, B, and C, and then we added more because there was a need, requests from patients and also from sites to join. And so the green sites, the ones labeled in green on the map, which are also underlined on the right, they are the new sites that were not with us at the very beginning, but were added later on. And we're so excited to continue to add new sites and new locations to give people more options wherever they are. Next slide. And we are working every week. We also work on adding more sites. So they all come in on a rolling basis, as you know, as they complete their trainings and certifications. And so the ones listed on this slide right now are the next step for activation. So we really look forward to welcoming them over the next couple of weeks. Next slide. And if you have questions, if you don't know if the site close to you is active for regimen E yet or not, you can always check the status on our website. Now, the sites that are recruiting for regimen E are labeled as recruiting, as you can see in this example. The ones that are not recruiting yet, they're still active in the trial. So they may be active for regimens A, B, C, and D, just that they're not recruiting for regimen E yet. And the majority of sites will participate in E. There's a few who cannot participate due to the fact that regimen E includes intravenous infusions, and so they're not able to participate for technical reasons. But again, they're all active, at least in the previous regimens. Next slide. If you have any questions and you would like to know more about the status of your site or the trial or options, or if you want to learn more about eligibility and how to participate, please don't hesitate to reach out to Catherine and Alison. You can see their phone and email on the slide, and you can also see the QR codes to sign up for these webinars. We will continue to give you updates every week, and also for the ALS link, which is our research newsletter. As you know, there's a lot that's going on in ALS research in addition to the platform trial, and so we always love to send out communications as things happen, but by way of these ALS links, so that feel free to sign up for the newsletter. And we're very excited that next week we will have a new guest speaker, Nadia Sethi, who is one of the members of our platform trial patient advisory committee. As we mentioned in this webinar series, we really love the receiving feedback from the patient advisory committee. They are a fantastic group that includes patients and caregivers, and people really care about the ALS community, and they've been with us from the very beginning, even from the time before we even launched the trial. They helped us design the trial. They continue to give us great input on the conduct of the trial, and so really great to have one of them participate in the webinar so that they can tell us more in terms of what the advisory committee does for the trial. Next slide. And as always, feel free to send us your ideas. I do want to mention that we have a webinar about Trialos or SLS05, which is the drug that's being tested in regimen E. We do have a previously recorded webinar about the mechanism of action of the drug, and that was done in collaboration with representatives from Silos Therapeutics, the manufacturer of the drug. And we're also planning another webinar with Dr. Cudkowicz and Dr. Lada from BNI, who are the lead and co-lead investigators of regimen E, and they'll help us understand more the clinical aspects of that. So they'll also talk a little bit about the mechanism of action, but also going deeper into what it means to be part of this regimen. So if people have any questions about what it is, what it looks like to be a participant, and what the schedule is like, and etc., please don't miss that webinar. We will announce it very soon. It's going to be in June. Okay, and with that, I think we can stop the slides and start taking your questions. So, Dr. Cudkowicz, there's a question about how many people join this meeting every week, the weekly webinar, and how many recordings you have had. So maybe I'll start with you, and I'll ask Catherine. I know you and Alison keep metrics, so you can actually answer with numbers.
Yeah, weekly it varies. Some weeks we have over 100 people. Sometimes we have 60, and it's in that range for people who are here every week. And Catherine, maybe you can answer about the recordings.
Yep, I was going to say about the same thing. So when we don't have a particular special topic, we usually see an average of 60 people attending in real time. For the more popular webinars, like the drug science ones, those tend to have, at least 100 people in real time. The recordings have more watches online afterwards, usually upwards of 100. The webinars, the drug science ones, upwards of 1,000. So it really depends on the webinar, but I'd have to look back and see how many of these we've actually hosted. I know we break it up by year, so that's a good point that we should just total all together through 2020 up until now, how many we've done, and get back to you.
Yeah, and I can tell you that we were looking at the numbers with Alison because next week we have one of the two meetings of semi-annual meetings of the Tambourine Group, which is a great group that's sponsoring some of our access initiatives. And so for that meeting, we pulled the numbers, and in terms of cumulative numbers up to now, I know that we have had over 14,000 views from the time that we started this webinar series, which I believe was in October 2020. So you know, if you total up all the views and all the recorded views as well, that's really great. And I think we have had people from over 40 countries, which is also amazing. People join the webinar. Dr. Cudkowicz, why is descentive, which is the drug manufactured by Cytokinetics, not in the platform trial?
We are, by the way, at Mass General, a site in that trial, and I do think it's a good trial. The company did not apply to join us for the platform trial. I think by the time we were getting ready to start, they were well on their way of designing and having their discussions with the FDA, so they decided to go on their own. But there was no reason, you know, that they couldn't have been in it. It was just a company decision to go it alone. I think now that we've done, you know, we're almost done with the first 4 drugs. I think, and we've shown that it can successfully enroll, and that people with ALS are excited about this approach. I think we'll have more and more companies that want to join us.
Yeah, and about another company also, there's a question about MP001. So the question is, can you comment on the recent developments of the MP001 trial, and what does it mean for approval?
Sure. MP001 was a drug that used to be made by a company, Neuraltis. And it's an intravenous drug that blocks an inflammatory pathway. And they had done 2 studies. The first one was very small and showed some positive trends in the right direction of helping people. The second one initially was reported out as a negative trial. And the company then kind of sold it to another company who did a reanalysis, and we published a paper. I was one of the co-authors of that paper that suggests that there was perhaps a subset of people who might have responded better than other people. And so I think that's very good data. It looks safe. I think it means they need to do another study. And I think that's what the company is probably trying to raise funds for. I can't speak for the FDA, but I don't think they would approve it based on these 2 small studies, but they would probably be very of doing a confirmatory phase 3 trial.
Great. So technical question about how to join this webinar. Kathleen, maybe you know, I actually don't know the answer to this. Is the Zoom link the same each week, or do people need to get a new invitation for each weekly webinar?
Yep, so I was actually trying to sleuth around behind the scenes to get the answer to that. I know for panelists like you and Dr. Cudkowicz, it's the same link. I don't know if it's the same for people attending weekly, whether it's a unique link. I'll send the link to our website to register, but I might actually have to work with you to see behind the scenes if it is the same link each week after week. But you can register for as many in advance as you want and get email notifications each week about them.
Great. In terms of the drugs in the trial, have there been futility checks for the other regimens? Have they already been completed?
Yeah, really good question. So we built into the design that after the first 40 people finish 6 months, that we start doing interim looks for futility. And futility means that the drug's not going to work, because we don't want to waste anybody's time. And so they have started and actually completed for regimens A, B, C, and D. They have not started for regimen E yet. And so of A, B, C, and D, A was stopped early for futility, as you know, last, I think, February. But B, C, and D have gone forward and have not been stopped for futility.
Great. Can you tell us more if there's been any studies looking at the effectiveness of the platform trial versus single drug studies? I'm not sure I fully understand, but I think maybe comparing platform trial approach versus single drug studies.
Yeah, there's a lot written about this, mainly from the cancer literature and also in some other illnesses, that it is, it's much faster. You get to treatments that are effective at half the time if you do a platform trial than if you do one drug at a time. You also, the costs are about a third less, and the number of people who get active drug is about 67% higher. So it's a much more efficient way to find the best treatments when you have a big pipeline like we do in ALS. There's no doubt about that.
Great. Let me just look at the other questions. Is expanded access available for platform trials already completed?
So for regimens B, C, and D, verdiperstat, the CNM-AU8, and pridopidine, the companies involved in that did agree to small expanded access programs, and so those are open. I'd say of those 3, I think clean is completely full. There might be some spots left still in regimen B or verdiperstat, and also in regimen D, pridopidine. We are in discussions with Silos about also expanded access for regimen E. And I think if people saw probably that today the NIH released the information and directions of how to apply for funding as part of Act for ALS for expanded access programs, and we're definitely planning to apply for some of those funds.
Great. Any news on edaravone? Any comments on that?
So today we're expecting the FDA decision on oral edaravone. So the intravenous, as everybody knows, is already on the market, but there's an oral version. And I have been looking all day and not seeing anything on it. I don't know if Sabrina, you have. So
same here, and I was just checking right now. I keep looking, but I don't see any official news. So
it might be that the company that they've told the company, and that maybe there'll be a press release. I don't know that, but that's what I'm guessing since it's after 5 o'clock.
Right. Yeah. A question, maybe Catherine, you can also help with that. How do people reach out to sites to be considered for the platform trial?
So on the slide, when we were sharing the site status list, that's actually where you can find the site map on our webpage. So if you wanted assistance reaching out to a site, I'm happy to help facilitate a connection or talk through local site options. But if you kind of wanted to take care of this behind the scenes or on your own, the best way to start the conversation with a site is just by emailing or calling the contact person listed on our website. It's helpful when you reach out to provide a bit of information about yourself or a loved one if you're reaching out on someone else's behalf. So that would be things related to eligibility criteria. If you know the time since that weakness symptom started due to ALS, that can be helpful to share, along with the most recent vital capacity test, what that measurement was, if it's above 50%. And if there's any trouble or difficulty swallowing foods, liquids, or pills. And then with that knowledge, it kind of helps things get off the ground a little bit smoother when you do get in touch with the site. And from there, the coordinator or contact person will let you know what the next steps are in the enrollment process.
Great. Well, I guess the FDA just came out with the news. I can see that right now. I'm multitasking.
Oh, good. Hot on our webinar. And I assume it's positive. Is it positive?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at that now, but yes, it's on the FDA website. So thank you for the tip. I guess it just came out. And so we'll definitely make sure to review these in detail. And I think people are asking for the link. And I think, Catherine, you know how to, if you look at the FDA press release, you can put it in the chat. That's exciting. So a few more questions.
For that. So
Yes,
great.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't see a press release from the company. It's, I guess, on the FDA website. Yeah. So question for you, Dr. Cudkowicz. There's a question about the microbiome study. Anything you want to share about that?
Well, one, I think is really important. So if people want to participate, it's relatively easy to do. You know, we know from some studies that the microbiome is different in people living with ALS and people without it. But what we don't know is cause and effect. So there are now some studies to test the microbiome in people who are at high risk for ALS, who might carry a gene pre-symptomatically. and also to expand studies in people who have symptoms to try to better understand if there is a role of the microbiome in ALS progression or ALS onset.
Do you have any comments about the NIH? Again, you mentioned the NIH grant that just came out today. Again, lots of news today. Just came out today for expanded access as part of the Act for ALS. Can you tell us more? You know, can companies in the HEALEY trial apply for that? Who can apply? And can somebody do open label extension and EAP at the same time? Maybe you can tell us more about the mechanism.
Yeah. So I'll answer the last question. So if somebody is in an open label extension of any trial, whether it's a platform trial or another trial, they can't also be in the expanded access program. And the reason is that open label extension is really important part of the trial to understand the longer term effects of the drug. And as we saw from the Amylyx study, they learned an enormous amount from the open label part. So if for that reason, the FDA really does ask that that part of the study, people aren't taking other things. So for the first part of the question, I'll just repeat that any physician can ask a company for an expanded access program for a single person or even for a few people. But some of the challenges are either the companies don't have enough drug supply or money, or the sites don't have the staffing or the funding to do it. And that's, I think, where this grant from the NIH will be really helpful. So people can call who are, people can apply as academics, and they can apply with companies. I know, Sabrina, you're thinking of applying. I don't know if you want to maybe share a little bit.
Yes. So again, this is a big day for ALS research and lots of news, but basically today, this mechanism to apply for the grant was posted. So I'm actually looking into the detailed instructions, because actually they do affect what people can apply for and the actual drugs that can be proposed. So I can tell you that as of today, after reading the NIH post today, we are planning on applying for a few drugs that are part of the trial or could be part of the trial in the future. I need to confirm with the NIH if future regimens can be applying right now. That's the one thing that's not clear to me from the post that was published today. So I plan on figuring it out tomorrow with the NIH. I have a call in to figure that out, and hopefully we can apply to expand the EAP companion to the platform trial, again, based on the guidelines and requirements of the specific grant. But I'm really hoping that, we certainly, have been preparing for that. And so based on the final guidelines from the grant that again was just posted today, we can hopefully apply to expand the EAP companion to the platform trial. So again, great news today about that grant, and hopefully that will bring about new expanded access opportunities for many. And then maybe we can take one more question, Dr. Cudkowicz. There's basically a few questions about how also the other news of the day, the approval of oral edaravone by the FDA, how that will affect the trial.
Yeah, a very good question. We've been talking about it internally and in preparation. So if somebody is on IV edaravone and is in the platform trial, once the oral is available, they can just switch to that. And what we're now deciding, and we need to do this with our statisticians, and we need to get FDA input, is if somebody's in the trial, let's say regimen E, and was not on IV, could they start it during the trial? And it does have big implications to the trial. It could make it very difficult to tell if the new drug is working or not. So we're working through how to do that in an ethical way, and then get the FDA to clear to give us kind of the okay of our approach. So now, as far as I know, the drug, what MT Pharma had said is that if approved, it would be a couple weeks, like 4 or 5 weeks, I think, before it would be on the market. So I don't know if that's still the case, but we're anticipating that it will be available in mid-June or so. We know nothing about price, insurance, forms, or any of the process. That they never reveal any of that until after FDA approval. So I think that will be what all the sites you're trying to learn.
Yeah, and I was looking at the website of MT Pharma. There's nothing out so far, no press releases. So I'm sure they will announce things over the next few days.
But we'll bring back to this group, our plans around it. We're talking to our patient advisory group and our statisticians about the best way to handle what is a really actually good problem to have.
Yeah. So if just a couple of last minute questions that just came in. If somebody is not eligible for the platform trial and they want to try for an expanded access, do they need special documentation or permission? Can you walk us through the process?
No, you don't need any special permission. What would you do is we would talk to your physician at your ALS center, and if they have an expanded access, that would obviously be an option. If they don't, they can they can obviously call Catherine or Sabrina or myself, and we can try to help with the closest one. Now, there are, besides the platform trial, there's also an expanded access for Amylyx, and that's available at many sites, or starting to become available at many sites.
Last question, is any trial looking at the role of antioxidants, glutathione, NAD? I know there's a few listed here, but I guess in that category.
Yes, well, so regimen C, which is the clean CNM-AU8 drug, one of the things it does is catalyze the formation of NAD in the motor neurons. It does other things, but that would be of the ones in the platform. That's the one that's closest to those pathways. There are other trials. For example, there was a recently reported study of methylcobalamin, which is a type of B12 that's working as an antioxidant. Now, most scientists, including myself, we don't think this is a super important part of the illness. It's certainly part of the illness, but what we call downstream. There's many more things that happen before kind of the oxidative pathway gets triggered. So it's probably, I think it's important, but it's there's probably even more exciting targets for drugs.
Great, thank you. All right, so I think we took, very last question, last minute. Are we gonna have a TRex trial?
I hope so. There's at least 4 companies now working on different approaches for Tregs. And one of them is obviously what Dr. Appel started with Koya, but there's also which is with the company Implicit that we're talking to, also modulates Treg cells. And there's one other one that I can't remember the name, but I think each of these is a slightly easier way to do it. And some of them are already in phase 1 testing. So I do think we'll see more drugs on that pathway.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you so much. And again, this is, lots of news today. And so we're happy to be here with you every week. And again, if you want to reach out, I think Catherine, you put the link to register for the weekly webinars. I think it's easier probably to register, but we'll clarify how people can register for multiple perhaps and have the same link.
It's fun to get the FDA news all together. So hopefully there'll be a lot of those coming up.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much.